I'm Kathy Hughes, the curator at the David A. Zegeer Coal and Railroad Museum, and today is a very special day for the Jenkins residents. We have a former resident, former longtime teacher of Jenkins High School visiting us today from Gulf Shores, Alabama. And it's Mrs. Ina K. Adams Dobson. And she came to donate some very special things that once belonged to her dad. We're going to let her talk a little bit about the items that she brought with her and maybe give us a little information about her father.
Yes, it's really a pleasure to be home to Jenkins, Kentucky, and I'm really excited to be at this Coal Miners Museum. It's fabulous, absolutely fabulous. My first visit here, and I brought my dad's hard hat and his lunch bucket, where he worked in the coal mines in the 1930s and 40s. And these are the items he used then. And I know that he would be absolutely delighted that they were now in the good hands of this fabulous museum.
I'm Kathy Hughes, the curator at the David A. Zegeer Coal and Railroad Museum in Jenkins, Kentucky. And today is April the 5th, 2022, and I've been here about 5 months. And today we're going to take just a little tour of our museum and show you some of our displays and talk a little bit about some things that we're doing here to bring publicity to the museum and our city as well. So we'll start right here with our entrance as you come in the door. And what you see are some wonderful lumps of coal, which we're famous for. Our wonderful script that was issued by Consolidation Coal Company in 1912 when the city was built. Many people who are watching may remember this song, 16 Tons by Tennessee Ernie Ford, written by Merle Travis. It's a story about the coal company and how it kind of the people owed their soul to the company store, and many of the miners were paid, well, most of the miners in that generation were paid with scrip, and they would redeem their scrip at the company store. So goes the story. Down below here, just because of space issues, there's a display of all the Jenkins, Kentucky mining fatalities from about 1912 to 2000 is what we have compiled so far. And you will see some of the really early rescue equipment, from wool blankets to some of the first aid kits, and maybe just a few pics of an actual rescue going on. So we're going to take a look at the checkboard that the miners used when they would go to the mines and check in for work. They were given a number, and they would hang it on their number, and that way all the officials would know who showed up for work. Also, these wonderful old antiques, and I don't know, Jamie, if you can even get a shot of this one back here. This is the original phone that was used in the depot in 1904. And this phone is an early underground mining phone. That probably dates way, way back, maybe late 1900s, maybe early 20s. We fixed it so now you can see it. This is the original telephone that was used in the old train depot. About 1904 is the date. This telephone is an underground telephone for mining. It's probably, maybe late 20s, something like that. And one thing to notice about all of this is so heavy. A lot of this stuff is extremely heavy. This telephone that's sitting here is an underground phone for mining. It's about a late 60s, early 70s style. taking a look at some of our displays, our mannequins. This exhibit is in recognition of the contributions that the black community has made over the years to our community and to the coal mining community. As we follow along, Diane Baldwin really put us on the map. Diane Baldwin is the first female underground coal miner in the United States. She was born in the Burdine section of Jenkins and worked for Beth Elkhorn probably over 20 years. And then when she was no longer mining, she went into MSHA, Mine Health Safety Administration, and was there for quite a few years before she retired. Some of our wonderful displays involving the feudist, the bad people, the infamous, the famous, whatever word you want to use. Of course, one, that's quite famous or infamous in this area is Devil John Wright. Most people know that a lot of material's been written about him. Historians have studied him and other bad people of the region. This is one of our oldest photos that we have. It's a picture of Devil John Wright, and he is standing at the Cumberland Gap Express. This picture dates back to the late 1800s. And Devil John Wright was a land agent for Consolidation Coal Company, and he was also a federal marshal. And the infamous part is he was known to have killed a good number of people in his life. And near the end of his life, he supposedly was a changed man. In fact, this picture in the display case shows his baptism and all the people that gathered to see this. We have a few artifacts here. Devil John Wright's pistol. Many, many news articles. Well, we have quite a few artifacts, Devil John Wright's pistol, and many articles have been written, the tales of the exciting 19-hole ride with John Wright's posse, and on and on. But near the end of his life, he was baptized, supposedly a changed person, and this pic displays his baptism and the number of people that showed up to see that. Other bad people of the region, of course, was Bad Talt Hall, and of course Dr. Marshall Taylor, sometimes known or called Red Fox, involved in the Killing Rock Massacre in Pound Gap, Virginia. That was 1892, actually. Some of our lamps that were used in the early coal mining years were carbide lamps, and some of these date way back, early 1900s, probably Consol started here in 1912, and carbide, we have just a little jar of the carbide, I call it pellets, that were used. Later there was a liquid version of carbide. There was quite a few different versions. Probably some of these are the very oldest. My dad was a coal miner, and he used sort of this middle version here. And I had brothers that liked to hunt, so we had lots of different types in our home. They'd get up very early in the morning to go hunting, and you could smell carbide, for several hours after a carbide light was lit. And the miners wore those on their hats. And there was a special person in the mines that actually made sure that the lamps were filled and ready to go so that the coal miners would always have a light. And hopefully, over time things got a whole lot better because batteries come into being, and I don't know that these would last 8 hours, but it's said that probably they did, but they probably had to be refilled. And this would be like something that would at least give you 8 hours, probably on a mine shift. The man trip light is just a light that's carried on the vehicle. It takes the men down to their mining location. The last man on board will have the man trip light with him. talk a little bit about some of our railroad items. Of course, our wonderful displays that locals have made. This train was made by Donald Hester. These even has some little lumps of coal on board. Our wonderful little caboose, and some interesting old photos. This is the very early years. It's a very early train hand car. And this is the Jenkins railroad trestle. And this is a railroad crew right where we're standing, 1924. A few more items from the railroad. This is the L&N. It was also built by Donald Hester. It's a very nice likeness of what it would look like in the very early years of railroading. And just a few wonderful railroad pics here. Here we have the Historical Preservation Committee of the City of Jenkins. A lot of people just call it the Museum Board, but really it's the Historical Preservation Committee, City of Jenkins. And the original members, Seth Keegan, Rita Wright, Lewis Quick, Calvin R. Tackett, Henry Ed Wright, Lana Dixon, Douglas Dameron. The museum opened October 18th, 1997. And Calvin Randall Tackett is our board chairman still today, and Seth is emeritus member and shall always be as long as he wants to be. The others sadly have passed away. This wonderful old brass bell, C&O Railroad brass bell that was used on the train from Jenkins to Shelbyana. It's beautiful. David Zegeer, for whom the museum is named, came to Jenkins in 1946 and just made it his home, really. He came here as an assistant to the president of Consolidation Coal Company. But by about 47 through about 1950, Consol was selling off most of its holdings. It was selling off its businesses, the barbershops, the homes, and eventually, probably by at least 1950, all of that was sold off, and Bethlehem Steel, along with Beth Elkhorn Corporation, merged, and it was called Beth Elkhorn. And David Zegeer was the general manager of Beth Elkhorn until about 1973, and is known for really mine safety above everything. Inducted into the National Hall of Fame and Museum for Mine Safety. Looking at some of our wonderful hard hats as the years have passed by, at the very top is the type of hat that Chinese miners wear. To the left, the turtle shell is the oldest one that we have. That's probably about early 1900s to maybe about 1925. And then beside of that would be about late 20s, maybe early 30s. And then it just sort of goes down the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. Some of them are kind of unique. This one especially is unique because it has the air filtration system built in. That was about the 70s, 80s. And then you start looking at some of the rescue equipment that's used in mines, especially respirators, and hopefully we've come a long way with that as well. Some of these are self-rescuers, which the coal miner wears on his uniform, and most of them give you about 30 minutes of safety to be rescued in that length of time. some of the real old mining artifacts, the augers, the shovel. This one has a tip here, and then it's a little shovel, so you can sort of clean up after yourself with your coal mess. A lot of the, especially this auger, all of it's very, very hard. It's very, very heavy for a set of blacksmith tin snips that might be used. This is an Edison cap light lamp that's attached to the miner's hat. That was probably late 30s. This one was used. The pulley, very heavy. Most of this is very heavy. The Jenkins Recorder is a newspaper that was published here in Jenkins, Kentucky by Consolidation Coal Company in the 1920s, and that went on for a while, but by the 40s, Consol also had another publication called the Checkboard, and that went on through the late 50s. Let's get a look at both of those. This corner is what we are considering sort of special collections, and we're a little bit limited with space. And right now I'm working on some of the famous people that were born in Jenkins, Kentucky. And of course, one of the more famous ones that I've worked on a little bit is Francis Gary Powers, who was born in the Burdine section of Jenkins, Kentucky. And he was flying a top secret spy mission over Soviet Union when his U-2 plane was shot down by Soviet anti-aircraft. He was a prisoner of war for a while, and there was some sort of swap there, and he was finally released. He's really, yeah, that was 1960, so that's been a long time. Another famous person, that famous to us anyway, in Jenkins, and to Joni Steffi, she was a sister to Milton Tico, who was a famous ball player also from Jenkins, Kentucky. But she was born and raised in Jenkins, and attributes her successful life as a chocolatier. She made chocolate Easter eggs and wonderful chocolate everything for some of the famous department stores back in the day, Wanamaker's and Strawbridge's. She was quite active when she was a student here at Jenkins High School. She was a tap dancer, and according, KET did this mostly is from KET, this article that we're looking at. They did a whole special on her life, and apparently just a few days before she died, she danced with her walker. She was just a very active person, and she attributes most of that to her upbringing in Jenkins, Kentucky, which is cool. Let's look at our mural.
Okay.
John Hunsaker's family gifted this mural to us, and it's beautiful, and it depicts the coal mining community. You have to have a real sharp eye to see all of it, from the trains to the little children to the coal miners going into the mines, getting off from work, working together, the tipple, the train leaving town, taking the coal out of our city. It's just marvelous. All the power lines at the top. It's wonderful. Some wonderful pics at the company store, and really the company store was magnificent. If you read a lot of history on Consolidation Coal Company, they had the finest of everything. It went from low end to high end, and usually the stores had several stories to them. And I know in Jenkins, the store that we had here was 3 stories, and you had, like, on the first floor, you know, you had your groceries and wonderful vegetables and produce, and the second level was like clothes, and the third level was like furniture. Sometimes the basement would have like equipment that you might need around your house. It was just a very early version of Walmart. It had just about everything that you would want. And of course, when you bought everything that you wanted there, you would have to check out, and we'll take a look at our cash registers that are used. This cash register was used to ring up scrip as well as cash. It's got a double drawer. So most of the coal miners in the early 1900s, as I told you, from 1912 on up, were paid in scrip. They had money too, but they were basically paid in scrip, and that's how you paid at the company store. This particular cash register, it actually it was used for charge cards, which was a new thing that I didn't know about. If people went to the beauty shop or the barber shop, a Consol beauty shop, then you would charge it. And then you would either pay by scrip or else it came out of the miner's paycheck. And this is the picture of the Jenkins store, the company store. These are some of the machines that were used in Consolidation Coal Company offices. And of course, this is a staple. This intimidating piece of equipment. This is the old Smith Corona Standard. It's about a 1915 to 1930. And this is a Royal typewriter, and it's about a 1947. And the interesting thing about all of this, it's so heavy. Especially the Royal. It's probably a good 50 pounds or better. And this is an old scrip changing machine as well. And then we'll move on and talk a little bit about what was in all the coal camp houses to keep everyone warm. It's a warm morning heater. And of course, coal was used. And every house, really in the early days, every house that Consol built had a coal house that was built beside of it, so the company could bring coal. And we had one. I grew up in a coal company house. We had several warm mornings in your living room, or maybe if you had a little den area, or maybe even a little off from your kitchen kind of room. Most kitchens had wood stoves, but the rest of the homes had like coal burning warm morning heaters, and that's how we kept warm. You had to be sort of real close to it to stay warm. Our city was built in 1912 by Consolidation Coal Company, but by 1913 the Ashland Daily Independent News wrote a marvelous article about our little city, calling it a modern city in the mountains and the newly found capital of an inland empire. And at one time it was unbelievable. We had over 10,000 people in this area, and the article goes on to talk a little bit about our city. And those who grew up here, which I did grow up here, I was away for a good while, but my heart really never left Jenkins, Kentucky. But to know what it was like and to see it now, there's a great difference in what's going on now, because we've lost a lot of coal. Coal's been the heart of the city. Jenkins is a city built on coal. That concludes this part of our tour today. But I just want to remind people to please come by and see all the history. It's not just about coal mining, it's about the city, it's about its people. Every bit of the history of our city is right here in this one little museum. And just to remind you that I'm open Tuesday through Friday from 10 to 4, Saturdays from 9 to 4, and Sundays from 1 to 4. And anytime you need a special tour or a special group, I can work around different hours, and that's what we want you to do. Bring another city in, bring a group in. Schools, bring the children here and let them learn about their heritage. You can reach us at 832-4676.